Hello everyone, welcome back to Backlot Banter, your favorite box office recap show on the entire internet. I'm Tanner Dykstra, joined as always by my good friend and fellow box office enthusiast, Tucker Hazel. We are here today to talk about, we are well into the summer at this point. We're here to talk about the month that was...
Well, not the summer in terms of the
I'm
seasons.
gonna kill you. June 2024 is what we're talking about here today. Tucker, a bit of a rebound from May, as we'll get into.
Yeah. Oh my god. This was like an actual month's worth of movies.
It was a good month's worth of movies, and they all made some pretty, well, not all of them, but they made a good amount of money on the whole.
A larger number of movies made a lot of money this month than previous months this year.
That's right. And if you're confused by that, just hold on. We'll explain that one to you. But before we get into all that, I want to remind you
Or pause and go for frame by frame. You're like, okay, this word and then this
yeah. Pull out the dictionary. You're going to need it for this episode. Subscribe to Backlot Banter, like this video, comment down below your thoughts on this month. And if you want to talk about more box office stuff, movie stuff, video game stuff, comics, music, I don't know what else. Barbells. You can talk to us about those topics in our Discord server. Yes. That link in the description for your clicking pleasure.
Oh, yeah. I haven't heard that one before.
I don't know. I just came up with that. But, Tucker.
How pleasurable do you find your average click?
Oh,
I don't know. Can we talk about that here?
6 out of 10.
Okay, yeah.
But I do a lot of them.
A lot, yeah.
So
it really adds up.
It really adds up.
Yeah.
Tucker, let's add up some box office totals
numbers,
for the month and look at our top 10 domestic openings of the month.
Of June 2024.
That's right.
Tanner?
Yeah.
A real movie opened this month. And by real movie, I mean a movie that made an amount of money that doesn't usually happen anymore. Inside Out 2 opened to 100... Is that your 2?
That's my 2,
okay.
Yeah.
To $154 million.
Good
now
golly, Miss Molly.
That is so far ahead of even the second place highest opening that it...
Which is?
Dune Part 2?
Which opened to?
82?
Yes.
Hey, look at me. Look at me. That was all the way back in March.
Yeah.
So we have proven that my memory goes back at least March, April, 4 months.
Yeah, we're doing math. We're doing grammar on this episode. We're doing it all.
But yes, Inside 2 completely smashed it. And frankly, it will be impressive if even... Deadpool and Wolverine, which is like kind of next one coming out, if that opens that
We'll
high.
get to it at the end of the video, but I think it will. But
okay.
Moving on.
I just said it would be impressive.
Number 1 with a bullet. Inside Out 2.
With almost $100 million.
Exactly.
To the second place down, Bad Boys Ride or Die, with a very, very respectable and very strong $56 million. And we will also get to the fact that that movie held very well.
Yes.
A Quiet Place Day 1 hasn't had quite as much time on the market as these last two, but $52 million, as we'll get to.
Yep.
Far and away the highest opening of the series, the Quiet Place series.
So strong top 3 there, Tucker.
Very strong.
And I presume that continues into number 4 and 5.
Oh, Horizon and American Saga Chapter 1 at $11 million sits at number 4. The Bike Riders at number 5 with under $10 million.
That's right.
And then closing it out, The Watchers, Kalki 2898 AD. Wrestle Crowe's The Exorcism.
Yes.
A re-release of Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, and Thelma. No Louise.
No.
Is that the sequel?
Oh, it's a prequel.
Oh.
It's a prequel to Thelma, but it's confusing because it's an old lady.
Well, yeah, that's why it's... this is a prequel to Thelma and Louise.
Exactly.
Oh. Yeah. Well, maybe it's a sequel after Louise died.
Oh, no, that'd be so sad.
Don't they, both die at the end of that movie?
Spoilers!
I don't know, I haven't
seen
it. I haven't seen it.
All right.
Can I spoil a movie if I haven't seen it?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, technically you did, because you're right.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tucker,
here were our predictions.
That's right. So...
Tanner?
Thank you.
This is a historic moment here on Backlot Banter. Tanner went 5 for 5 this month. And the only difference between our predictions was I believed in The Watchers. Now, I actually think that The Watchers wasn't actually too far off.
It opened to like 7 million.
Okay, so we were 2 million apart.
Exactly.
It wasn't a ridiculous guess for me to think that this from the Bike Riders, different places. But, I mean, wow. I'm honored to be next to you. Accurately predicting the top 5 highest.
Oh, please. Openings. I put my pants on in the morning just like you guys, except I can predict box office numbers better while doing it.
Occasionally.
Yes. Very, very occasionally.
Yeah, but this was not it wasn't too hard, honestly, to predict this. And it was a pretty clear ranking in terms of when we look back at the numbers. It's like, we were close between Bike Riders and Watchers, but everything else was
let me pull up my numbers here, because I think Quiet Place outperformed what I expected it would do.
Inside Out probably also did.
Inside
must have.
It must have.
Unless you were like the world's best box office prognosticator.
Inside Out far outdid what I thought it would do. So I said Inside Out 2 would open to $85 million.
Nearly doubled
it did $150.
Yeah.
Bad Boys, I said 45. It did about 56.
Yeah.
Quiet Place, I said 40, and that did 52. So again, outdoing it there. And then we get to the underperformers. In Horizon and American Saga Chapter 1, I said that would open to 20. It opened to about half of that. And then Bike Riders, I said 12. It opened to 9.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that one's reasonable.
It's pretty close.
That's within the you're okay margin of error.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't predict numbers, but we did it, and you really did it. You exceptionally did it.
That's right.
But these movies got cinema scores.
That's true. They did.
And they also got
I also want to point out, Tucker, I do remember our conversation from last month. You did say the Bike Riders would open to less than 10, and you were right.
I was right, yes.
You were right.
I just thought that, I must have thought that the Watchers was like
a little bit over 10, yeah.
Oh well.
Cinema scores.
A
good spread.
Yes.
I like it. A good spread.
But here's the thing. I was actually thinking about this as I was at it. I added the Watchers because you messed up. You didn't add it. I had to do that this morning.
What?
I added it later.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I was adding the Watchers and I was looking at this. I'm like, man, there's a good spread here. I was thinking that to myself. I'm like, we say that every month.
Yeah,
because the honest to God truth is a variety of movies released every month, even if it's a bad month.
It can be true every month.
Yeah. I guess that is true. Yeah. This is actually a heavily skewing positive.
That's right.
Month. With especially for the Rotten Tomatoes scores, Inside Out 2, A Quiet Place Day 1, Bike Riders, and Bad Boys Ride or Die being widely beloved films.
That's right.
And The Watchers really tanked at 32 on Rotten Tomatoes. And Horizon American Saga is just doing what it's doing. It's kind of sitting in the middle.
Yeah. But for cinema scores, though, I kind of find this interesting. So you have your big crowd pleaser of the month, Inside Out 2, sitting up top. And then, the big fun action hit, Bad Boys Ride or Die at an A-. And then I was kind of interested to see that Quiet Place, which is, a well-liked film, having come out just recently, getting a B+, but I think you have to also factor in the horror aspect of it. So it's not a great cinema score for like an action blockbuster, but a quite a good cinema score for a horror movie.
One of the best.
And it's kind of both. Yeah, it's kind of both.
So it balances out to being fine. You're not gonna sneeze too hard at this one.
That's right.
But there is actually one thing we don't have on here.
What's that?
And that is The Exorcism.
Yes, thank you, Tucker.
Which is not one of the 6 movies that we were covering as like the top of this month, and we don't even have a slide for it, but we have to mention it here. The Exorcism got a D cinema score.
The lowest that I've ever seen.
Well, you haven't seen the movie, but this is the lowest that you've heard of recently.
Yes, for
there are other movies that have gotten D cinema scores, but it's such a small and inconsistent thing that it's legendary.
Yeah, it's very, very. I mean, even like The Watchers, which I also felt was not a good film, at a C-.
That's barely above a C.
Yeah,
or D.
Whenever we get a C-, we're like, damn, that's really bad for that movie.
And it was for The Watchers.
It was for The Watchers.
So yeah, sorry, Shauna.
That's all right.
We'll get to that.
We'll talk about it. And then Horizon got a B-, so not exactly a crowd pleaser that Kevin Costner was hoping for. Yep.
But let's start off where the month started, and that is with Bad Boys, Ride or Die, with currently a total of $344 million on a $100 million budget. This is done. It is profitable, money in the bank.
That's right.
And this is also a movie that is going to do so well on PVOD.
Oh, yeah,
so well on streaming on... Which studio is this again?
Sony.
Okay, so this is going to go Netflix. Oh my god, dude. Yeah. This movie is going to be doing massive.
Big on Netflix.
Yeah. And so this is just a great success. And also I do want to commend them with one very special thing, is that if you look back at Bad Boys for Life, which was the highest grossing movie of 2020 for obvious reasons, but still
it opened in January of 2020.
But still very impressive for that movie.
$426 million
That movie did very well for itself, was the highest grossing movie of 2020. They're like, okay, we need to make a sequel. That makes sense.
Yep.
But they only expanded the budget by $10 million.
That's right.
They went from $90 million from Bad Boys for Life to $100 million
kept it consistent.
Ride or Die.
Yeah.
Consistent, but actually that's probably just about the same in terms of inflation.
Yeah, honestly it is.
So, and this is not made as much money as Bad Boys for Life. I don't think it will catch Bad Boys for Life.
I mean,
but regardless, it's profitable.
Yeah, it'll probably cap out at like what, 375 maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I'm not sure what international markets it has to open in because this will obviously have that kind of appeal. Will Smith is a global superstar.
Yeah.
So if it still has those markets to open in, it'll make more money there. But yeah, I doubt it'll catch Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah.
But again, you have to give props because this was a surprise across the board. Outdid just barely its sort of opening window prediction there from $45 to $55 million. Had the highest R-rated film debut since Oppenheimer. It will hold on to that title until Deadpool and Wolverine comes out, most likely. But yeah, I mean, has held very well, as you had mentioned, Tucker. It only fell out of the top 5 domestic films at the box office on the 4th of July for the first time.
Yeah, which had a couple new movies come out.
Exactly. So we had a couple new movies released by then, and so it stuck around in the top 5 for an entire month.
Yeah.
And this is just a full boned hit for Sony.
Yeah. A- CineScore is very very good. The Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb are totally fine.
Yeah.
But this is a crowd pleaser. This is one that people just want to go see.
Yeah.
And they gave it a solid amount of money, and it also wasn't over budgeted. We look back at so many movies that we've talked about this year that were big spectacle movies. There's a couple that hit, but when you're talking about things like Furiosa or Ghostbusters, you're like, you put too much money into that.
Yeah.
You put too much money into that. If you'd half the budget, now who knows what those movies would have looked like or been like if they spent half the money on them. But they did not budget properly to what the audience expectation or hunger was. But Bad Boys Ride or Die, Sony did it. That's right. And that's something you can't really say too often for Sony.
That's true. They are often shitters of the bed.
Yes.
But Tar, you mentioned Furiosa, and it's really just a matter of what we had talked about with Furiosa, which is that they sort of overestimated the broad public appeal of that film,
which is none.
Which is close to none.
Yeah.
And Bad Boys Ride or Die does have a lot of public appeal, and it outgrossed Furiosa in 4 days.
4 days. That's insane.
Yeah.
It's actually insane on both sides, though.
Yeah.
It's insane how bad Furiosa did. And it's insane that this movie's doing well.
It is doing
and it's still holding on.
Yes.
So no complaints.
Good job, Marty. Good job, Will. We'll be getting another one of these for sure.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But hopefully not a 4-year turnaround time. I mean, if they can snowball this success a little bit more, put it out in 2 or 3 years, I think that'd be better.
You know what I also was super annoyed by the coverage of this film, Tucker? Was all of the Hollywood publications being like, it shows that Will Smith is still a bankable star after the Oscars slap. I was like, yeah, no shit. Yeah. No one cares.
No, that was only relevant for a few weeks.
Yeah,
maybe.
A few weeks max after the Oscars, which were that event happened 2 years ago at this point. It's like, I can't believe it. The public still likes Will Smith. How could this be?
a guy whose movies they've been watching for 25 years.
Yeah. Just get real. Just get real, I suppose. Anyway, Tucker, The Watchers.
Yeah. Is this the biggest flop of the month? No, actually. Well, it broke its budget.
It has broken even. Well, I think Horizon's probably the biggest flop of the month, but we'll get to that at the end here. But this is a debut film for Ishana Shyamalan, the daughter of esteemed auteur M. Night Shyamalan, who also has a film coming out in August. And as one might expect, and there was some little bit of discourse about this, for as much as there was coverage of this movie, which was not a lot. No. There was a little nepotism conversation happening. It was financed by her father's company, Blinding Edge Pictures.
Yeah. I believe he also finances his own films.
He does. So he self-finances, self-produces.
That's a traditional thing for them. Yeah. And it's cool that he gave her the opportunity to do it, but this is not a good start.
No, it's also not a good movie. You haven't seen this
No.
one. I did see this in theaters, same day as Bad Boys Ride or Die. I saw this opening day, and it's reflected in my score down there in the corner. Just really not a good movie, but I will allow it because her father, M. Night Shyamalan, I've seen his first 2 debut pictures as well. Also not very good movies. So
what was the first 2?
Well, his first was Praying with Anger, which was like his student film, which I can excuse. It's totally fine for a student film. And then Wide Awake is like a weird movie for M. Night Shyamalan. It's like a kid comedy, family friendly kind of thing, but with these themes of religious doubt and stuff like that.
Love that.
It's odd. And then he did Sixth Sense, which is the biggest movie in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. which is also a great film. But so we're still waiting on Shyamalan's Sixth Sense.
And it could come, but this does not communicate particularly big hope. But also, if her father continues to believe in her, it doesn't really matter because he's made a lot of movies. He has a lot of money. He has a lot of respect. And I think people can probably forget about this pretty quickly. And then they'll be like, oh, M. Night Shyamalan's financing a new movie. Oh, who's the director? Oh, okay, whatever. I'll go see it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so he self finances, as we had mentioned, and then this ended up being sold to Warner Brothers. I believe Trap is also a Warner Brothers film, so like it kind of came as a package deal, I have to assume. But this one was sold to Warner Brothers for $30 million. Presumably that was around the production budget on this film as well, and so it has broken even.
I mean, actually, I think that's probably pretty high.
For this?
No, yeah, because this is like mostly a single location movie, right?
It is a single location movie.
I think $30 million is too high for the budget for that.
Yeah, it's a fair point. That's a fair point. But also, you have your
So it's funny though. Warner Brothers is the only one losing money on this.
Yeah.
M. Night Shyamalan's Blinding Edge Pictures got $30 million, presumably more than they spent to make the movie.
Yeah, but also you also have to think about like $50 million on this. It's not like they did a massive push on this for marketing or anything. I don't remember seeing a lot of marketing, and that certainly paid out in the box office results here.
But $50 million is actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. It's pretty solid.
For someone's debut film, $50 million is a lot.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, I mean, it's not a very good film, but it also, didn't debut very high. Yeah. But again, like I had mentioned, Warner Brothers wasn't exactly making this, positioning this to be their big horror hit of the year or anything like that. It debuted at number 4, behind the week 3 of some family-friendly films like Garfield and If.
Yep. Well, let's move on to the family film.
Yeah.
Inside Out 2.
Yeah.
$154 million opening, as we talked about. But just completely smashed expectations. I mean, just so far
just a grand slam. I mean, this is maybe the biggest discrepancy we've seen between the upper edge of a domestic opening prediction and then the actual opening from 115 to 154.
Now, where did you get that exact range? Because I remember hearing, maybe this was even longer ago, but people are like, okay, $80 million would be great for this movie.
So what I do when I get these numbers is I look at Box Office Pro a lot of the times, or maybe some other sites, and I get basically the week before it comes out.
Okay,
that's the number I
most
use.
accurate.
The closest to the film's release before it comes out.
Yeah, the closest chance to be accurate, but they were still very wrong.
Exactly.
Because this again just smashed past that, and in every area, certified fresh and Rotten Tomatoes, a cinema score. Has already crossed $1 billion.
The fastest animated film to do so.
This is just... It's a massive, massive, massive success, and it's the biggest success of the year. This is already the highest grossing domestic and worldwide film of the entire year. And also, what's interesting is this did completely surpass what the original did, and shows that with the stronger modern brands that Disney Pixar has started...
cultivated,
that the... streaming audience, the home audience, the growth of these IP through toy brands and things like that, and just general cultural consciousness can level these up to another level. And obviously that's what they are expecting with Moana 2 coming later this year, and some of the other sequels that they have coming down the pipelines. And this is... If you are the kind of person that wanted Disney to push outside of their comfort zone, try something new, not stick to their guns.
This is bad news. This is bad news for you, because Disney is looking at the receipts coming in for this, and they're like, we are never making another original film ever again.
Which does only... I can't tell if this bodes well or not well for Pixar's next film, Elio, which is releasing early next year.
Yes.
Which was actually supposed to come out
this year,
and is presumably already finished.
It is finished. Was delayed because of the strikes. They couldn't really have the actors out there promoting it. I'm not sure what actors are in it actually. But yeah, it was just part of a general Hollywood delay of delays happening.
Yeah.
So,
but I actually do think that the order of operations here is probably in Elio's favor, because this film showed what the last few years have trended in a strange direction, but ultimately positive direction of Lightyear to Elemental, bigger success, Inside Out. We are completely back. Pixar's back. People want to go to theaters to see Pixar movies.
Yes.
If Elio had released in between these, and it had been a long time since a full-blooded success Pixar film sequel like we were getting in the late 2010s, I think that it would have done worse. I think Elio will do better next year because Inside Out 2.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I certainly hope so, but it's not like they were promoting it alongside of this, so we could slip back down the mountain simply because this is coming, 9 years after and has the branding of being a Pixar sequel. Yeah. Elio's an original film.
Well, Elio's not going to make $1 billion, but...
No. But it'll be hard to say then, of course, because, I mean, we're probably looking at a bigger across-the-board box office here for 2025 anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, getting people back in theaters for Pixar movies, getting that back into their diet, not looking for these on Disney Plus, is certainly a possibility of what's going down here, but... I don't know. The cynic in me is like, well, it's doing these numbers because it is Inside Out 2.
I know it absolutely is. It's more of just like the general appetite thing that I think is increased by this. I think you can see the track record of people not being interested in Lightyear, being more interested in Elemental, and now being fully interested in Inside Out 2, to the point where I like this note you have at the very bottom here. This is the first film to have over $100 million, I assume domestic, in its second weekend since Avengers Endgame. And that's ridiculous because this is not the highest grossing movie since actually, I don't know, it might end up becoming the highest grossing movies ever. Yeah. It already kind of is. Yeah. But what this means is Avatar: Way of Water didn't make $100 million second weekend.
That's right.
Spider-Man: No Way Home, Top Gun: Maverick, Barbie. These movies didn't make $100 million in their second weekend domestic. But Inside Out 2 did.
Exactly. And so I am kind of two minds about this, about the audience that Inside Out 2 has cultivated, which has resulted in its $1.2 billion gross so far.
Though that has the... week-to-week grosses have completely dropped because Despicable Me is massively eating to that audience.
This is what I want to talk about. Yeah. So, it is part A, because this film comes out 9 years after the original Inside Out. So, the people our age who remember these things, who remember that film and were like prime age for that kind of thing, remember that film coming out and now have nostalgia for that, and in the material in Inside Out 2 and what they've been pushing in the marketing is very much meant to like age up with that audience.
And I think that's a very smart choice.
I think so too.
Because it also is still a very family-friendly film. It's about cartoon visuals and slapstick comedy and about childhood and growing up, but it has a lot more that appeals to the young.
It's about, it also has like anxiety and jokes about nostalgia and things like that. And so, again, part B, the more obvious part is, it is... the first, family-oriented kids film since Garfield had come out a few weeks earlier, and this one obviously has the brand recognition of Pixar, which is, a lot stronger than the brand recognition of Garfield, for example. And then, hence why the drop-off may have happened with Despicable Me 4, and why Despicable Me 4 will continue to reign supreme until...
Who knows?
Harold and the Purple Crayon?
No. I would not be surprised, Tanner, if Despicable Me 4 is... don't hold me too hard to this, but is making more money in Harold and the Purple Crayon's opening weekend.
Oh, boy. After a month? Oh, no.
It's not impossible.
I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see.
But we say, okay, all right, Despicable Me 4 eating massively into Inside Out's family audience, but it already made $1 billion.
It doesn't really matter at this point.
It's already one of the highest grossing movies ever made.
Exactly.
So we're good.
Will probably be the highest grossing film of this year.
Oh yeah, very possible. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, a couple other notes that I had brought up here. It's the 5th biggest post-pandemic opening weekend, another feather in its cap, and had the best ever hold for a blockbuster in its second weekend.
That's amazing.
35% drop.
Yeah. And also it's just cool that this brand and Pixar is able to stick around like this.
Yeah.
There have been some pretty solid worries over the last couple of years.
There have been plenty of worries.
Is Pixar, are the higher-ups going to need to be changed out? Or do they still have that cultural appeal anymore? Lightyear was like such a legendary bomb for them that people were worried for the longevity of the company. It's like, are they just going to be relegated to making streaming-only movies?
Yeah.
That was definitely a worry, and I am of the opinion that every movie they've put out this decade so far has at least been good, and some of them I think have been phenomenal. But this is the kind of hit they needed because Pixar movies are safely going to theaters now. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts.
They do also have this weird project of their TV show coming out on Disney Plus at some point this year.
The baseball thing?
Yeah, Win or Lose.
Yeah.
Which could just be like an odd bump in the Pixar history.
Well, I mean, you assume that started production 4 years ago.
Exactly. I mean, they announced that years and years ago. So
I think it's still a holdover from that.
It probably still is, but yes. And then like we had mentioned, Elio is coming next March. So
now,
here we go.
Did I just make this up, or did I dream this? Or isn't there another isn't there like an Inside Out TV show or something? Disney Plus,
like Dream Factory or something like that.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, see.
We'll see. But Inside Out 2, biggest hit of the year.
Of course.
It just feels good. Like this is we're so back.
We're back.
Yeah.
We're good.
And people are back in theaters.
Exactly. With Inside Out 2, it kind of and coming off of Bad Boys the week before, people were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
After Furiosa was a massive flop and everyone was ringing the alarms. It was
God.
The movies are over. So shut it down.
By the way, welcome to the modern box office landscape.
Yeah.
We've been dealing with this as we've been covering this for over 3 years at this point. Yeah. Just like, oh God, this movie lost a lot of money. Never mind, we're back. We're safe.
It's okay.
Oh, Spider-Man came out. Fine.
Phew.
Oh God, oh shit, what's going on? Oh, Top Gun Maverick. Oh, it's fine.
Anyway, The Bike Riders, Tucker. This film opened on June 21st, 2024, was intended to open in December, but was delayed in September because of the strikes and everything like that. It obviously has some big stars, as you see on the poster here, with Tom Hardy, Austin Butler, Jodie Comer, who could not promote the film. And so this was a 20th century production, got cut loose from their slate, sold over to Focus Features.
Snip that umbilical cord.
That's right. And I don't know. I don't want to say like, hey, good move or anything like that, but it's made $26 million. Will be coming to VOD in just a couple days now on a budget of about $40 million.
Yeah, I actually think that this movie is a success in no way. I mean, the 81% on Rotten Tomatoes is good.
Yep.
And it seems like people are enjoying the film.
Yep.
But this is the kind of movie that does not have a particular appeal in the modern box office, and I think that the delay and the gap in its marketing is something that probably hurt it.
That's true.
Because we were seeing trailers for this movie last summer.
Yes.
And then they were continuing those for a long time, and then they stopped them, and it changed hands. And sorry, which studio picked this? Oh, Focus.
Yes.
Focus Features does not have the budget. They do not have the reach and the appeal of 20th Century Studios, especially
that's true
under Disney.
Yeah.
This would have received better, stronger promotion if 20th Century Studios had been the ones releasing it at the time that it actually came out. And the reason I say this is not a success in any way is because this is not going to be profitable for them. And what you could have seen this movie in December as is maybe some kind of an awards push.
Yep.
Not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Last December it was kind of, as Oscars prognosticators as far as we go, they were like, yeah, maybe something here or there, but it probably wouldn't have panned out here in December, and it's definitely not panning out in June.
No.
So what they were really banking on was kind of like if you don't want a superhero thing or a kids movie or something else,
they try to do some counter programming,
some adult programming for the bike riders here to go see some movie stars, they're riding motorcycles, and I don't know. $26 million. Ultimately, Focus paid $20 million for it, and then also covered the print and advertising for it. So they lost some money on this, but not a whole lot. I mean, I don't know. I think it was a decent pickup for them, but maybe just not. I think it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, putting this in summer. You have people going to the movies, but do they want to see this kind of movie in the summer? Or if you punt it to the fall, you're taking a gamble on if that's an up or down month for the box office as a whole. So
who knows?
Exactly.
But what I do know is this was not the right time to release this movie.
Yes. But it was a decision from Jeff Nichols, the director of this film. He dropped out of directing A Quiet Place Day One, which we'll get to in just a few slides, and moved to this project instead.
Yep, that is an interesting coincidence because those movies opened like a week apart.
They did, yes.
Well, not much else to say about the Bike Riders. Within its predicted range, but again, those predicted ranges are usually kind of off. So.
And hey, it's a good movie.
Yeah,
I liked it quite a bit.
Yeah. Nothing against the Bike Riders.
Exactly. Also opening in limited release on June 21st was Yorgos Lanthimos' next film, Kinds of Kindness, following up his Oscar-winning Poor Things 6 months later.
Yep.
He's an absolute workhorse, this guy. And it's got a couple feathers in its own cap. It has the highest per theater average of the year, opened in only 5 locations on June 21st, and grossed about $75,000 per theater that opening weekend.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that I think shows the appeal of Yorgos Lanthimos to the art house crowd.
Exactly.
And that is the crowd that this movie was made for, with a $15 million budget, a over 3-hour runtime, a really, really, really weird marketing cycle.
Yes.
Strange trailers.
Every time I was sitting next to, like, not one of our friends who knows what this movie is, but, like, a normal person in a movie theater, and this trailer came on, without fail, I would always hear a, from that person. Because the trailer doesn't tell you anything.
No,
it's mostly just a vibe check for this movie. Because having seen it, it's kind of impossible to sell this film on, like, what it's about. Because it's 3 separate stories, so what do you do there? It's kind of confusing to try and say that in a trailer.
Yeah.
And maybe even off-putting to say that in a trailer. So it was mostly just hey, Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, you know these people. Willem Dafoe, you know these people. Come see the movie.
Yeah. And it hasn't really paid off for this movie.
No, on a budget of $15 million, which is solid for like an art house film like this, but has only made 6.5 at this point.
Yeah.
Launching in June, I don't know if this is going to be an Oscars play in itself.
No.
Probably not.
No, I don't think so.
So
because it also doesn't have the reception to do that. I mean, no one's... I hear mostly... This is a downgrade for Yorgos Lanthimos.
It is.
This is a weird project. That is
certainly not my favorite of his works.
Yeah, and that's kind of the resounding... From our bubble, that's the resounding sentiment that I've heard is... Yeah, what's he doing? But you got to give this man props for one thing, and something that we give a lot of consistently working directors props for is... It is not necessarily about the success of any individual film, but about the continuation of their career, the proliferation of their name, their collaboration with their closest collaborators.
Yes.
And Yorgos Lanthimos is killer in those areas.
Absolutely.
He comes off of Poor Things, which is not only a very big success at the Oscars, winning multiple awards, being nominated, like easily top 2 or 3 for Best Picture last year, but was a massive financial success as well. It was like secretly one of the highest grossing smaller art house films of the last few years.
Hitting that Oscar cycle and then getting people... I saw people easily, outside of like Oppenheimer and Barbie, which were obviously massive summer blockbusters of last year, this is the awards film that I saw the most people on like TikTok and social media talking about. Is like, I want to go see Poor Things. I've heard it's really weird and interesting, and Emma Stone's in it, and she's doing some crazy work, and she won an Oscar for it. Boy, do I need to go see this? And that didn't exactly translate to Kinds of Kindness, but at the same time, maybe it did. Like, highest per theater average, and only 5 locations. It was top 10 in its second weekend in less than 500 theaters.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Actually,
no, that's actually really cool.
It's very impressive.
Yeah, because without a wide release, almost everything else in that top 10 is going to be a wide release. Limited releases don't usually break into the top 10 like that.
No, absolutely not.
And again, we're talking about his Lanthimos' consistency. He's got another movie next year already.
Exactly.
This does not hurt his chances to get another project because he already has another project.
Yes. When it moved to number 9 in that second weekend, less than 500 theaters again, it was behind, basically all blockbusters. Like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is still in there, Garfield movie's still in there, Kalki 2898 is in there, but that's the week that it opened in the US as well.
And
so
much wider release.
Exactly.
Yeah. So just impressive for this film, but I haven't seen it yet. I will watch it because I'm a fan of Yorgos Lanthimos, but I do feel a little bit disappointed that we go from my favorite movie of last year with Poor Things to a movie that is really just going to be forgotten about. It's just going to be like a weird footnote in his career.
It ultimately kind of will. I don't want to disparage too much or make judgment calls on this, but it kind of feels like he had 3 kind of ideas for movies. Sure. And he's like, well, I can put these all in one movie.
Yeah, maybe.
So ultimately, that's what that's what it reads like to me. But I digress. Solid movie. Enjoyed it. And if you're a Yorgos fan, you're definitely gonna check it out. Yeah. So
next up, Quiet Place.
Yes.
Day 1, with a current gross of $139 million on a $67 million budget.
Ooh, that's sweet. Ooh, that's good stuff.
Yeah, which is, again, let's look at comparing the budget to A Quiet Place Part 2. $61 million versus $67 million. That is basically just adjusting for inflation.
Yep.
But also, this is a much bigger scope movie.
It is.
This is a much... it does actually feel like a sort of an action disaster blockbuster in the way that the other films didn't.
Yeah.
But it's just... all of this is paying off for the Quiet Place brand, for the people behind this film. This is obviously a big jump up for Michael Sarnowski in terms of notability. Well received at 87% certified fresh and Rotten Tomatoes, and blew past a little bit past its predictions.
Yes.
Or projections at $52 million opening, above that $50 million
exactly.
top of the projections.
So yeah, I think all around this is quite a solid surprise for the year in terms of box office results. Also for, sort of critical reception. The resounding audience and critics response was I didn't expect it to be this good, frankly.
Yeah, totally.
And we would agree with that. Yeah. I mean, this is obviously coming from Michael Sarnowski, whose previous film Pig I really, really enjoyed. And we covered this in our review, that it's sort of the ideal outcome of getting an indie director to move on to a franchise sort of film.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, what's really impressive to me is that budget difference between Quiet Place Part 2 and now this film.
Yeah.
I presume that has to do with Emily Blunt is maybe commanding a higher paycheck than Lupita Nyong'o might, even though she should be up there because she's a great actress and should be in more movies.
Maybe a better actress than Emily Blunt.
I would maybe contend the same thing, but it's ultimately also the highest grossing horror movie of 2024. Now, I always feel a little weird calling, especially this one, a horror movie. It is.
The other ones definitely were. But this is a horror action thing. Yeah. But anyway, I digress. It is the highest grossing horror genre film of the year. And also the first one to cross $100 million worldwide.
Yeah. In what is ultimately, as it pans farther and farther out, quite a weak year for horror this year.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of quality, I mean, there's a couple horror films that come out this year that I enjoyed. Immaculate and The First Omen came out, and that we were we liked those quite a bit. But otherwise, I mean, I don't know about at this point in 2023 or 2022, but at the end of the year, we had 8 horror films in 2023.
That's ridiculous.
That made over $100 million, and 5 in 2022.
It would be kind of fun to try to remember what all those were. I mean, it feels like it's probably mostly franchise stuff.
Well,
Megan, Exorcist, Five Nights at Freddy's, Death in the Nile didn't. No, wait, what? Haunting Venice.
Haunting in Venice
no,
did not.
No, didn't do that.
I can look.
Okay, all right, we're doing a bit, boys.
If you want to talk, you keep talking.
No, but I really like this movie. I think that what this budget and the scope and spectacle of this film show is that it really is about smart use of CGI, smart use of spectacle, because there are a number of big scale set pieces in this film with hundreds of death angels running around, and it does feel like a big city thing, but because it's balanced out with a horror movie and with the sensibilities of an indie filmmaker, this is shot in composition ways that don't rely too heavily on CGI. Because this is a horror movie, it is a lot more about confined locations or empty streets where there are some shots with a bunch of extras, but this is a film that is very balanced in the way that it has its horror elements of sneaking around in the dark that takes maybe just $1 million to produce that scene, or versus a couple of bigger scenes that give it a sense of spectacle. But the budget is just, it felt like it was so smartly utilized.
Yeah, I mean, what I came to learn about
this movie doesn't feel cheap.
Yeah, true.
But because it feels like it's doing what it needs to do.
And what I came to learn listening to some reviews and some people talking about this film is that wasn't actually filmed in New York City.
What wasn't?
Was not.
Yeah, what a shocker.
It was.
You cannot shut down Manhattan.
What if you're if you're Cameron Crowe in Vanilla Sky, you can shut down Times Square for a shot.
Yeah. Did they actually film Amazing Spider-Man 2 in Times Square?
I don't think so. Yeah. Probably not. But they could have. People movies of that size shut down things all the time. But no, this was filmed on like a Warner Brothers, or not Warner Brothers. Who is this?
I don't remember.
I think it's Universal.
No, this is Paramount. This is Paramount's like only movie they've put out this year.
Thank you. The Paramount backlot in the UK. They have a recreation of New York City, as you might expect.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, this is filmed there, and yeah, just really smartly utilizes its budget and everything. So Tucker, the 8 films in 2020, 8 horror films in 2023.
We got half of them.
Yeah, we got, because what did we say? We said Five Nights at Freddy's,
Megan, Exorcist. I think that's actually what we said.
Yeah. Okay, so you want me to just rattle them off here?
Sure.
Saw X.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yep. Exorcist Believer, which we got.
Yes.
Evil Dead Rise.
Oh, yeah.
Insidious: The Red Door.
Oh.
The Nun 2.
Oh, yeah.
Megan.
Okay.
Scream 6.
Okay, yeah.
And Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, actually, so I was right. It's mostly franchise stuff.
And then Talk to Me was made like $92 million worldwide.
And that's also maybe the best of all those.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, so there you have it. I'm not going to look at 2022, but
no.
I mean,
what's going on?
Looking at the horror movies this year, let me just pull those up.
How many more could make $100 million?
Longlegs, no.
No, of course not.
Does Trap count as a horror movie?
No.
But it's also not going to make $100 million.
It's a thriller.
Cuckoo's not going to make $100 million.
No.
Alien Romulus.
Yes.
Could. Okay.
No,
will. Okay. So that's one.
Yes.
The Crow.
No.
Afraid.
No.
The Front Room.
Oh, I barely even remember that was happening. No.
Speak No Evil.
Probably not.
I
mean, that's actually the first one on that list where I'm like, that could be a weird sleeper hit for no reason.
Yeah. Never Let Go.
I don't even know what that is.
That's the Halle Berry one with her kids.
I still don't know what that is.
Okay, fair point. Terrifier 3.
No.
Smile 2.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, Smile 2.
Oh my god.
Heretic.
No. Oh, that's the one with
Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant. Yeah.
Nosferatu.
Yes.
Okay, so 3.
3 plus 1, so 4.
We'll have 4 at the end of the year.
Which is less than 2022, which is sad.
Yeah.
But hey, hopefully all the good ones, popular ones, got pushed to 2025.
Hopefully. We'll see.
But let's move on to
last film of the month that we'll be talking about. Horizon, an American Saga, Chapter 1. So, on a budget of $100 million for both films, for Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, so let's say 50 for this one in particular.
I think that makes sense. No, actually, I could see this being the smaller budget of the two, because from what we know of the second one, it seems like there's gonna be a lot more action set pieces and things for that.
But they were, in production alongside each other. Yeah. They're part of one larger thing, so whatever. But ultimately, it does not matter because it opened to $11 million and has made 22 at this point.
Has barely opened overseas. It probably will, but I can't imagine that it will be big.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if any buzz from this movie or any awareness of this movie contributes to the second part being bigger, which I think is, I think it's possible. I won't say if it's likely or unlikely. I think it's possible.
I think it's very unlikely that second part is bigger. I mean, you have to look at what people would take from this. You didn't have the initial interest. Yeah. And if people are interested, it's not going to be like out on VOD by that point.
No, I mean it might.
Kevin Costner gets to choose. He owns the distribution right to this.
Well, of course he does.
So he gets to decide whether this goes on VOD or DVD or whatever by the time the part 2 comes out on August 16th. Yeah. I don't think he'll go that route. Yeah. I think he'll want to keep this in theaters as long as possible.
Maybe.
So it will still be in theaters, hardly making any money, or will be out of theaters, and you have no other way to watch it. Yeah. People are going to look this one up. And he's like, "Hey, was that good? Oh, no. 47% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeesh." Yeah. And they're like, "Well, I didn't see part 1. I can't buy it online, and I can't buy it on DVD."
That's actually a great point. Yeah.
And also, it's August, and I don't, I'm not going to go to the movies like I am going June.
Because no one goes to the movies in August.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. Yeah. Okay, so lock it in. Even lower gross for part 2.
I mean, yeah, you're not going to gain people on Chapter 2. You're much more likely to lose people who saw this and were like, I'm not going to keep up with this.
Yeah, yeah. The unfortunate thing is that this kind of just all goes back to Kevin Costner. I think that there are pros and cons to all of this. Mm-hmm. It is very impressive that he covered so much of production costs and print and advertising for this movie himself. Yes. I mean, obviously, he's been a star for a long enough time that this is more of a passion project than anything. And also that these are well-budgeted big summer blockbusters. 2 movies for $100 million is actually really good, especially for as long as these movies are, and frankly, as good as they look. The production value is great on this. A big cast with lots of solidly big names. So $100 million is, I mean, God, can you imagine if franchises that people were actually cared about made
we're doing that.
2 back-to-back releases for $100 million?
Yes.
That would be great for the industry.
It would.
So take some notes from Kevin Costner.
That's right.
Do not take all notes from Kevin Costner, as in, don't make a Western.
I mean, ultimately, more power to him. He's 69 years old. He is he's making this sort of passion project that he's wanted to do for a long time. But, you know, the cinematic landscape is very different than it was in 2003 with Open Range. And you
Another movie I've never heard anyone talk about.
Exactly. You kind of have to abide by that, ultimately.
Yeah. I agree.
If you want to make money. If you want to make money. If that is your goal. If you want to make money in theaters, which Kevin Costner is like, who cares about opening weekends, yada, yada, yada. The people who like my stuff are going to buy it on DVD at Walmart.
He's right.
Fair point. Fair point.
He is right. Or they're going to buy it on PVOD, or they're going to see it on a streaming service.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's going to get a solidly big deal from
Max.
I guess it'll go to Max. I'm sure that they're going to give him a good amount of money to have the movies on there. And there also is the chance in terms of... I was about to say that the 2 movies could drop at once on streaming. I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. But there is a chance that this is not a massive money loser for him in the long run. But it'll be interesting to see. I think that... I don't know why, but I keep wanting to give this project, this series, Kevin Costner, the hopeful benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely. I'm totally on board with that. I hope that this, gets some sort of turnaround here.
Yeah.
But just looking at the numbers right now, it's not looking good for him.
No. But the one possible turnaround is that I could see this being I could see the 3rd movie being the Inside Out 2 of Horizon, in that if that movie comes out in like a year and a half or something like that and gets a better marketing push, and the audience that exists to be passionate about this, that currently is not seeing it, knows about it because the movies have been big on DVD and on streaming and on PVOD, that 3rd movie could make all of this worth it if they're able to build up that brand awareness and really... I know this opened close to 4th of July, but imagine 2 years from now, 4th of July summer blockbuster that all the middle-aged and older people know about. Kevin Costner really puts a marketing push behind it. I think it's possible that the 3rd movie could be big, but also that is not indicated by the box office interest of this film, and I think will be indicated even less by the release of the 2nd film. I'm just trying to be like, I want that to happen because it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we've been trending a lot more than in other episodes. In this one, being like, well, this movie didn't make money, so what does that mean? But obviously, the both of us are ultimately our artistic vision. Making a good movie is the most important thing. That's point number one. He did make a good movie. He did make a good movie. No. We didn't like this one very much, but I don't know. I hope it does turn around for him, and he owns all of this, and he's talked about if it doesn't make money right now in like my lifetime, then the ownership goes on to my kids, and they can ultimately make some money off this, hopefully. So they will.
Well, once the rights get passed on to his kids, whatever money they make will be money to them because they didn't spend $100 million to make this.
That's true. Well, he spent probably somewhere around 50. If he spent 38 million of his own on the production, and then him and his financial backers did 30 million for marketing. You figure he has a portion of that himself, so around 50 million on both of these things. So though it's making more money than it would have a couple years ago when it was initially pitched to Warner Brothers, because when he went to them after departing Yellowstone, they're like, "Oh sure, we'll put this on Max."
Yeah. Which would have been just a complete money sink.
Exactly. This was like when the directive... I was reading... There's actually a pretty interesting article, I think, in Deadline, getting into the background of all of this, where the directive of Max, like a couple of years ago, was we want one high-quality movie released on Max every month.
Yeah. And to their credit, they initially did that by putting everything out day and date, and by making a lot more things streaming releases.
That's when they were really big.
Yeah. And now... I mean, Max is fine. People like Max.
They don't
obviously that don't need or even seem to really want original films for their service anymore. Which
that was like a Zaslav or other board member decisions, like stop putting things on Max. We're not going to make any money there.
Yes, good.
Anyway, all right. Last time on Backlot Banter Tucker, the movies of May. That some of them, one of them, I would say, well, two of them. We'll get to it. Fall Guy. We talked about it in week 5 last time. It has gone on to make $175 million. What did this one cost again? It cost
I'm gonna quickly just open up last month's thing.
Yeah, it was something like $80 million or $70 million. So, they made a little bit of cash on the Fall Guy.
130.
Ooh. Okay, well, it turned around a little bit. I think I remember seeing some articles, some coverage that later week Fall Guy has not been a super steep fall. If people are going to see this. And then it was quite a big VOD as well. So I don't know. Still not a good move. May was not strong across the board. Like for Tarot, for example, which has only made $48 million, but cost $8 million, $40 million
they made
in the pocket.
A lot of money there.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. There's your big hit. There's your big hit of May. $315 million last time we talked about it. Now at nearly $400. It's going to VOD here on Tuesday. That's when we're getting the release of the no CGI version, which is highly anticipated.
That's a good marketing bit, by the way.
It is. It's good for VOD marketing. Yeah.
When was the last time you remember something getting VOD marketing?
Yeah, not a lot. But yeah, so we'll end up just under $400 million for that one on a 160 budget. Yep. So. If May has made 185, was sticking around solidly as that sort of family-oriented option. Mm-hmm. Furiosa made just over its budget back on 171, has been on VOD at this point for a couple weeks. Yeah. Had a budget of 168, made 171.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, we're not getting that Wasteland movie.
We are not. But hey, I also heard that one was a big VOD hit, as many of these blockbusters are. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And then Garfield, $241 million.
Yep. And
big old fat cat. Garfield was
under 100. Yeah, $60 million budget. That's a great return on investment.
Exactly.
Garfield movie 2 in about 2.5 years.
Garfield 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah,
coming down the pipeline hot.
So I know no one was worried about him.
Yeah.
But Chris Pratt is gonna be fine.
He's sitting happy. He's sitting
happy with 3 franchises because he's gonna return in some way to the MCU. He's gonna return in some way to the Jurassic Park movie.
Oh yeah.
He's got Garfield movies going on. He's got Mario movies going on. Is that Tomorrow War getting a sequel?
I don't think so. But he can finance a couple more Tomorrow Moors if he wants to.
Yeah. But there we go. Garfield is a hit.
Let's talk about the most important thing.
Yeah.
What we thought of the movies that came out this year. Who cares about the money? Our opinion is king.
You know, Tanner, every time I start working on one of these videos and putting hours and hours of research and production effort into slides each month, I always think, who cares about the money? That's the first thought on top of my head. I'm like, who gives a shit about any of this?
Yeah. So last year, Tucker, last June in 2023, we gave the average score of those films that we gave was a 5.92. Not very good.
No.
Not very good, ultimately. This, above a 6.
Better, but not by much.
Not by much. 6.25.
Yeah.
So, we had some films that we quite liked in Quiet Place, Bike Riders, Bad Boys, Ride or Die, and then a couple stinkers like Horizon and The Watchers. Mm-hmm. So you can see where the matches are happening here. A couple stingers last year, Transformers, Indiana Jones. Mm-hmm. Big difference is that last year the stinkers were the big franchise movies of the summer. Yeah. And when it comes to here, 7.5 for Bad Boys, 7.9 for Quiet Place, your big franchise stuff here, quite liked.
Yeah.
Quite liked.
Yeah. But also, there were no movies this year on the level of Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse.
True. That's true. No super good, love this movie. Movies that came out in
Spider-Verse is no Elemental.
Spider-Verse is no Elemental. Tucker, finally something we can agree on.
Everyone bow to June 2022 in the middle there with almost a 7.0 average.
Yeah.
Almost. Because there were 4 very good movies that month. 4 good to great movies. Oh, and also Jurassic Park.
No, Jurassic Park.
Or Jurassic World.
Dominion.
Jurassic World. But Elvis, Lightyear, Crimes of the Future, Black Phone. I also could have put Marcella Shell's Shoes on in there.
Yes.
That was a damn good month, actually.
It was very, very good. I like that one a lot. All right. So, well, we'll have to see how July fares. I don't know.
We'll have to see how June 2025 does.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Okay, Tucker, what's next?
The comparison.
Oh, yes!
To the other monies.
Other monies. So, Tucker, last May, that we can see the rebound happening. I would say. So there's a big gap. So this first slide is how much money was made at the box office each month individually.
Yeah.
The cumulative for the year is coming next. But super close in last June and this June.
Yeah. So I believe last month was the first time or maybe second time that you did this slide.
Yeah, first
this
month.
graph.
Yeah, it's first time. Yeah.
And we had a pretty big conversation about that gap and about how it was going to be basically impossible to catch up. And now the only thing that we said is what would have to happen was for movies to be overperforming their projections and bringing people back to the box office in bigger numbers than expected to make any movement, considering how big some movies were last year. Spider-Verse made actually a bunch of money.
Exactly.
Even though they weren't well-liked, the combined totals of like Flash and Dial of Destiny and Elemental and Transformers, those movies made hundreds of $1 million.
That's true. But Inside Out is picking up a lot of the slack for this month.
But this month or June and then July, I think actually will turn things around, because Inside Out 2 completely changed the 2024 tune period.
Exactly.
It just blew past everything
And
else.
then, things like Bad Boys or Quiet Place are doing solid numbers, not on the level. Well, I guess, didn't The Flash open to like $55 million?
Well, but still, Flash is actually... did Bad Boys Ride already outgross The Flash?
You want to look that up for me? Like I was saying, you mentioned it, but like The Flash and Indiana Jones were famously disappointments at the box office.
Definitely.
So
55, yeah.
Yeah, the Bad Boys opened,
and you're right. Bad Boys has already outgrossed The Flash.
Exactly. So that's what I'm talking about. Is that we have some things picking up the slack here simply because they're good movies.
Yes. Well, those movies are a lot better than Flash and
Indiana Jones.
Destiny,
Yeah.
Though Quiet Place is not going to outgross Dial of Destiny.
No, it's not. It's not.
But yeah, and interestingly enough, I actually think that this month will at least keep pace with it, because Despicable Me 4 and Deadpool and Wolverine will not. Well, actually, the combined total of those might actually be bigger than Barbenheimer.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously they're not coming out on the same day, but within the same month.
I think both of those are going to be billion-dollar movies, most likely. And Oppenheimer famously was nearly a billion-dollar movie.
Yes.
If you look at the totals, not quite there.
No, that's a good point.
And then Barbie made like over $1 billion, so that makes up for it. But...
And then it will be interesting to see, because I think the third place comparison for both of them is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning versus Twisters.
Oh,
who knows? Who knows?
Well, I would say Twisters Twisters opens actually the week before Deadpool.
Yeah.
So it could be a similar situation, actually.
Maybe.
I don't know. Well, it's turned into a much tighter race than it was in May.
Yeah, and you can feel the general box office sentiment, and especially the theatrical exhibition, being like, oh, thank God.
That's what we were talking about. Last month it was shut down Hollywood, it's over, movies are dead, and this month it's movies are back.
Yeah, because I remember especially end of the year last year and into January of this year, people making projections and be like, with all the delays from the strikes, this is going to be a massive downturn in the overall box office.
Industry experts, if I remember the number from early this year, were like down 18% at the box office total for 2024.
And I think it'll still be down, but I don't think it'll be that much, which is really, really nice.
Well, we can look how much it's down at this point, Tucker, with our next film, the next slide, the cumulative totals.
Okay, so it still is
Last month, Tucker, we were down 27% from May to May, and now from June to June, 21%.
Hey, that's growth.
And as we're talking about, we could be looking at another bit of growth, cutting down on that, maybe getting to that, like, maybe we could close that gap. We could get below 18%, maybe.
That's interesting. Yeah. And then it'll be very interesting to see how the August-September movies do in comparison to last year's, which actually is not too hard, because August and September movies last year were
really
pretty bad.
Yeah.
But then I think we actually have a pretty comparable holiday season.
I think so too. I want to talk about that when we get to
in another
headlines.
place, Tanner, you know who's going to be making a lot more money than in last year? Disney animation.
Interesting.
So Moana 2 versus Wish.
You think Moana 2 is going to do better than Wish? You think? Are you sure about that, Tucker? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing some really solid growth.
You know, sorry, I gotta keep
one more time.
You know who else is gonna be making more?
What's that?
DC, Aquaman versus Joker.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah. Good point. Okay, but yeah, I mean, we're seeing some solid. We're seeing solid growth here, and I think we're assuaging a lot of fears right now.
You know who else is gonna be making more money?
Oh, we got another one.
Ridley Scott.
Oh yeah,
Gladiator 2 versus Napoleon.
Tucker, I want to talk about that when we get to headlines. But first, Tucker, let's look at the top 10 highest grossing films of 2024.
Shakeups.
That's right, some real shakeups here. These are domestic numbers only, of course. We have a new number one. Welcome to the party, Inside Out 2. Number one with the bullet again with $533 million.
That's so much more.
And counting at the domestic box office.
Absolutely counting.
Yeah. Pushing out Dune 2 with only 282, a paltry 282. Yuck.
Screw you, Warner Bros. I love Disney.
Yeah, it's right. Another new one, number 5, Bad Boys Ride or Die with 177.
That's amazing.
Jumped into number 5 is really
what's
impressive.
really impressive about that is beating King of the Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
Which shows, I think, kind of the bias of our circles. I certainly heard Apes talked about a lot more.
Of course. Yeah, it's a sci-fi thing and not like... Bad Boys Ride or Die, again, has
it's
that
just a general audience thing.
Has a general audience appeal to it. Yeah. It probably won't take number 4 from Kung Fu Panda.
I think it could.
It's got to make, I mean, less than $20 million.
I think it could.
Okay.
I think it could.
Right on.
Oh, well, I guess this is just domestic. Yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be very, very close.
Oh, it'll continue there.
It could even take 3 because that's only $3 million. It's possible. Mm-hmm. It's possible. $20 million more dollars, that would put it at the third highest grossing domestic movie of the year.
That'd be cool.
Though it won't be third highest grossing domestic movie of the year because we have
we got more movies.
We have Despicable Me 4 that's probably going to be on this list by the end of the weekend.
Yeah. And the other new movie that we added here.
By the time you're watching this, this list is already wrong. I mean, actually, it's already wrong in one place because by the end of this weekend, Garfield will have outgrossed The Fall Guy domestically.
Oh yeah.
It's like $1 million behind. Mm-hmm. Garfield's going to make $1 million this weekend. Mm-hmm. So you actually will see a lot of changes next month.
Let me check on something real quick. Let me just check that hasn't happened.
No, actually, no, it hasn't. I just checked.
Okay.
I checked this morning.
Okay.
Actually, Garfield won't be on this list because two other movies. Actually, oh man.
Actually,
do you think Twisters is going to make $100 million?
I was thinking about. I wanted to talk about this briefly. I didn't get to it. If is new on the list as well. $110 million.
Good for that.
So good for If. But yeah. So by the time
If will probably be number 10. Next month.
So let's look, Tucker. Let's headlines. Shoot. Let's look here. We're skipping ahead a couple slides. I'm just looking at.
July 2024 releases.
Yeah. Despicable Me 4.
Yes.
Will be on the list.
It might be number 2.
It might be number 2.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
No, I think it absolutely will be.
Yeah.
Because it has an entire month.
Yeah, by the time we talk about it next month, that's a good point.
Yeah, it can make $282 million domestically.
Deadpool and Wolverine will not...
No, in 1 week it will not be... Or 2 weeks?
No.
When does Deadpool and Wolverine release?
July 26th. It'll be on the list.
It will absolutely be on the list. It will not be number 3, though. No. Because it will only have 1 week of release.
Exactly.
So that will be probably between King of the Planet of the Apes and Ghostbusters.
Yeah, and then Twisters, I think will be on the list. We'll get to our opening weekend predictions at the end of the video. But with 3 weeks at the box office, it'll make over $110 million for sure.
Which would put it above Bob Marley.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see how the order of all these things shakes out. It could squeak into that 10th
We
spot.
will no longer have any sub $100 million movies on the list.
Oh, finally.
Yes.
Good God.
It only took half the year, over half the year.
Well, Steam seems to be really picking up. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to lose a little bit of Steam as the summer comes to a close.
Yeah.
But
sorry, we should finish off the July 24 releases since we looked at it already. Maxine also has come out already by the time you're seeing this. Fly Me to the Moon, a film that I have seen and reviewed already. I found out that I broke the review embargo by that for by a week.
Huh. Well, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter because you weren't...
I was positive on the film.
Well, also, they didn't tell you that.
No.
You just went to the movie and then reviewed it.
Yeah.
You didn't break the embargo that they told you about.
This is also information sourced from Grace Randolph. I saw a tweet that was like review embargo lifts on Tuesday.
I believe her.
I believe her too.
Yeah.
But I was like, I broke the review embargo for like a week on that one.
You know what's awesome about that?
What?
bunch of views incoming because we currently have the highest viewed Fly Me to the Moon review on YouTube, and that'll probably just pick up much more steam next week.
Yep. So that opens on July 12th. Longlegs also opens on July 12th.
Fly Me to the Moon will not make over $100 million.
Probably not. I'm gonna say no. Twisters is July 19th. The A24 Oscars Darling, Sing Sing also opens on July 19th in limited release. That'll be doled out over the summer, I'm sure. So you go, see it if you can, I guess. And then Deadpool and Wolverine is end of July, along with another indie film, DD.
Yeah.
So there you have it, folks. 3 big old blockbusters and then some indie material as well.
Big old meaty blockbusters.
That's right. Tucker, headlines. Let's rock and roll, baby. A new Hunger Games prequel, Tucker, is coming to theaters November 20th, 2026.
What did I tell you at the end of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes review?
That's right.
Is, okay, there's not a book for this. They'll figure it out.
Well, Tucker, I have to actually you here.
Suzanne Collins is writing another book, right?
She is writing another book, but it's not a sequel to Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. It is about, if you remember Haymitch from the Hunger Games film. It's about
Quaritch, is that his name?
No,
Quaritch is Avatar.
It's Haymitch something.
Yeah, Abernathy.
There you go.
Oh
Very
my God,
good.
I'm so smart.
Woody Harrelson's character. It is about him and his Hunger Games.
Yeah.
The 50th Hunger Games, I think.
And the book is about that, and this movie is about that? Okay.
Who do you get as young Woody? We'll have to wait and see.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I meant.
Exactly.
I don't care that there's not a book that we know about right now. I don't care that it doesn't even really seem like there'll be... it makes sense to continue it. Actually, it would make sense to continue the story of
I would say
Snow,
so as well.
Which means... Well, we're getting back to that.
Yeah.
I bet you Suzanne Collins right now is writing the sequel to Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
President Snow will be in the film. He was president at the time of the...
And will it be Tom Jones?
Blythe.
Tom Blythe?
I mean, it's not going to be Donald Sutherland.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Rest in peace. And in some way, will they get Rachel Zegler back in this film? Oh, it's possible.
Imagine.
It's possible.
You have to age her up by like 20 years.
Hey, you can do it.
You can do that.
They're gonna have to age down.
Actually, like 50 years.
Oh, whoa. Okay, I didn't realize there was that big.
Well, because the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Tom Blythe will not be.
No.
Okay.
Because Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is like the 3rd or 4th Hunger Games.
And this is the 50th Hunger Games?
Yeah.
What's Katniss's first Hunger Games?
Like the 74th. Because the Catching Fire is the 3rd quarter quell, the 75th. Yeah.
Okay.
We get it. All right. That's coming to theaters. Sony Pictures now owns the Alamo Drafthouse Theater chain.
That's a big deal.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
This was much talked about, much covered because Alamo Drafthouse filed for bankruptcy back during the pandemic, as many theater chains were not doing very well. They were then bought out by some private equity firms and now have been bought out by Sony Pictures.
Yeah.
I say I would rather a theater chain be owned by someone who has a vested interest in the movie industry, like Sony Pictures,
and Sony puts out a lot of films,
than a private equity firm.
Yes.
That's my contention.
Yeah, and I also I understand the worry of not that. Let's be honest. Not that a lot of people talking about this are aware of the film history implications of the monopolies of the studios owning theater chains in like the 30s, but I don't think that we're going to see too much change out of this, if at all.
I mean, Alamo Drafthouse will probably play some like Sony exclusive things, or we'll delve into the back catalog of like Columbia Pictures or something. But I who's to say? But what it ultimately does is it opens the door for other theater chains, other studios to buy theater chains.
Here's the craziest thing, though. I think you're actually kind of right about the vested interest thing. If a studio like Paramount or Warner Brothers, or Disney probably doesn't need to do it, but they could, acquires a theater chain, suddenly they're going to want to put more effort into their theatrical releases.
Yeah, but also maybe only their theatrical releases is the worry. Like, or
not showing the other ones?
Does this disincentivize Sony from showing Warner Brothers or Disney films? But,
I would say no.
Yeah.
Because Warner Brothers and Disney films make more money than Sony films, and now that they own Alamo Drafthouse, they're gonna want the movies that make the most money.
That's a good point.
So you're gonna want Deadpool and Wolverine on all your
maybe not. They're not going to not show Deadpool and Wolverine, but like,
I don't think it disincentivises them.
Is Bad Boys 5 gonna be on more screens than whatever, like the Bike Riders, whatever the Bike Riders is gonna be in a couple years?
I think that is possible, but I don't think this disincentivizes them from showing the other big films from other studios, because now they're making money on the releases of those films, and so they want them to be on as many of their screens as possible.
But and Alamo Drafthouse is a special case unto itself because it's also like a repertory theater. They do a lot of like throwback screenings and movie parties and special screenings like that. So they want to maintain that brand identity for sure. But yes, it opens the door for Disney to buy AMC or Warner Brothers to buy Regal or whatever. That decision from the Supreme Court like 100 years ago, what was it? Thrown out the window. Anyway.
Next up, Blade.
Oh, Jesus. No longer has a director. Surprise, surprise.
I would love to just go back and look at all the different headlines things. How many times we talk about this movie? Because it feels like every other month we bring it up and we're like, this shit's not going good.
This is if I remember correctly, this is the second director to depart Blade. And now they have brought on the 6th head writer for the film.
Shit.
So yeah. It's being rewritten again. Has not changed date again at this point, but the film doesn't have a director, and it is planned to come out next November.
Great.
So
that's not happening.
Probably not happening.
Oh God, no. You can't start pre-production on it if you don't have a script and you don't have a director.
Well,
how's the movie gonna come out?
There's also been some rumblings that like Mahershala Ali
is really upset about.
Is fucking pissed
as he should be,
and might leave the project.
As he should. This movie's never coming out.
Dwayne Johnson is wheeling and dealing with The Mouse. His production company 7 Bucks has signed a first look deal with Disney, meaning that any films that are produced from them, like the upcoming Red One, would go to Disney first, and Disney would likely distribute those.
Sure. No, that's not what that means, because Red One already has a production company and a distributor.
Oh, no, I mean, like...
If they made new ones.
Yeah, new ones like Red One is what I meant.
Yes.
Okay.
Movies after
I'm not going to say that Disney's going to buy Red One now.
and they're also not going to buy The Smashing Machine, which is an A24 film.
Exactly.
The films that he already has in production will continue with those.
Right.
But whoever he has at his production studio, they're getting scripts in, they're getting ideas given to them. And the interesting thing is The Rock's actually been pretty equitable with going to a bunch of different studios with his big projects over the course of the years. The only of course Moana. That's actually probably what
that's the big thing is like, is there going to be anything outside of live action Moana that he's like?
I think so, absolutely, because if you think about Jumanji, I was thinking about Jumanji because Jungle Cruise is actually very similar to Jumanji.
Exactly.
I think a Jungle Cruise sequel is possible.
Jungle Twos.
I think another live action movie like that isn't in a currently established franchise. Like, of course, Jungle Cruise, like, that's based on a ride or whatever. I think he wants to be in as many places as possible and doesn't want to be locked in as being Maui. So I think this will result in more high-grossing Disney movies, Tanner.
Most likely.
But he's had his fingers in a lot of different pies over the course of the years. Jumanji with Sony.
Yes.
I don't know who made Skyscraper, who made Rampage. I have no idea.
I was linking the
San
exact
Andreas.
Same too. San Andreas, all these things. Probably Universal made 1 or 2 of those.
But he's locked down now, and after we've been seeing quite a lot of this with Ryan Reynolds and Margot Robbie and John Krasinski and all these
Damien Chazelle,
and did Ryan Coogler lock down with the vampire thing, or no? That's just that one movie.
That's just that one movie, I think.
But we've seen a lot of first look deals recently.
Exactly. Timothy Chalamet has signed one with Warner Brothers. So speaking of Warner Brothers, they have an upcoming untitled family film. Speaking of Timothy Chalamet, actually releasing on December 17th, 2027. We have theorized that it's probably Wonka 2. Twonka.
Yeah, I think that's very possible. I think. I mean,
Oh wait, no.
That's.
I'm a fool. Am I a fool? I am a fool, right?
What?
2027. No, family sequel. When's the? Oh, December 18th, 2026 is the untitled Denis Villeneuve Warner Brothers film, which is most likely Dune 3.
Yeah. Well, they're getting their families in a bunch.
Exactly.
And they're like, Denny, Timmy Wonka.
Yep.
Come here, buddy.
Come here, boys.
Come here, boys.
Uh-huh.
And I guess that is Wonka, probably.
There's also
that's 40 years is a really solid long time.
It's a big gap. The other possibility, they said it's a family film sequel. I was like, is it like because they've been talking about doing this Barbie sequel thing at some point.
Oh, for a holiday movie? No, I think they gotta stick with summer.
Okay, no, that's fair.
Unless it's like
which is why
Barbie at the Winter Olympic Games or whatever.
Maybe, maybe. But which is why I think it's Wonka too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 2026.
Barbie and Sonic at the Winter Olympic Games.
Yeah,
Sochi.
yeah. I had it down there. Denis Villeneuve has a film with Warner Brothers and Legendary. Gee, I wonder what it could be.
Yeah.
Dated for December 18th, 2026.
Yes, which is interesting because, the idea is that this is Dune 3 or Dune Messiah or whatever they're going to call it. But what does this mean for his other projects? I think it is good that he's going to complete this vision.
The trilogy first.
And it does feel ripe for another film in that series, but he has like 3 or 4 other projects that he wants to do.
He's got
that would feel more unique.
He's got Cleopatra. He's got this
there's like a space movie.
He's got like this sci-fi space thing. He's got his nuclear attack movie, all of which is happening. And he was like, maybe I want to take a break between Doom 3. So I have to imagine Warner Brothers cut him a hefty check to make Dune 3 before all of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jordan,
and actually, that is what's interesting is actually pull up your calendar that I love that you have.
Yep.
What's going to compete with Dune 3 that holiday season?
Well, Tucker, there is a Star Wars
Yeah.
film dated for that day as well. We have not heard any movement on this front in a long time. This Star Wars Day because earlier that summer is when they're releasing Mandalorian Grogu.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they released 2 Star Wars movies the same year.
No, I don't think so.
So I think we see them scrub that December 18th date.
What's also possible is that Mandalorian Grogu gets moved to that Christmas date because Star Wars movies work way best as a holiday film.
As we have learned.
The 3... No, I guess also Rogue One was a holiday movie.
The only one that wasn't was Solo.
Yeah, which did not do well. So I think it's actually possible that they swap that around.
You don't want to go up against Dune, though, with Star Wars?
Tanner, you think if anything's going to go up against Dune, it's fucking Star Wars.
I don't know. That's
tough. You know what's great?
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about Avatar also going up against...
That's true.
We might. What if that gets delayed again?
I don't know. Anyway, Jordan Peele's next movie comes out on October...
Imagine Dune and Avatar being in theaters at one time.
Oh my god, we'd die. We would die. Jordan Peele next movie, October 23rd, 2026. All these movies getting dates. Can you believe it? Eddie Murphy, while doing press for Beverly Hills Cop, revealed that... Axel F. Has revealed that Shrek 5 might release next year, which would be crazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's also confirmed that there is a Donkey movie in production.
That was also rumored and like kind of hinted at like years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting / good to have reconfirmation of these things. Shrek 5 was also, and again, that was talked about years ago. Of like, we're probably working on this. DreamWorks already has a film slated for next year. In January, they have Dogman.
Yes, Dogman.
I'm not saying that precludes them from working on Shrek 5, but that might be the last like big major thing that they are doing primarily in-house, because if you remember, they're like divesting a lot to animators and they're going to outsource a lot of work. But you got to imagine Shrek 5 is like an all hands on deck.
That's definitely an all hands on deck.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. We talked about Denis Villeneuve's next film. Skydance has reached a preliminary deal with Paramount to purchase Paramount. This has been a big tumultuous thing going on in the Hollywood boardrooms. Is like, who's going to buy Paramount? Is it going to be Sony? Is it going to be Skydance? Is it going to be... there was like a guy who used to own Paramount who's going to come back and own it, but preliminary deal with Skydance right now, which I've always said is probably the best outcome.
Sure.
It's not Sony, so we don't get these a merger of 2 major studios. Yeah. It's
Skydance is a production company.
Yes.
They have made a solid amount of films, but I couldn't name 5 Skydance movies off the top of my head.
So they work with J.J. Abrams a lot. I know. I think they have a hand in some of the Mission Impossible films as well. Sure,
but not all of them.
Yeah, not all of them, which aligns with Paramount's sort of deal. So I don't know. I've said that this is probably the best outcome for Paramount is the Skydance deal. And last thing I want to talk about, I've mentioned it a couple times as we brought up Gladiator in this holiday season. Gladiator 2 and Wicked will now be releasing on the same day, November 22nd of this year.
Now, which of these movies recently moved to this date?
Both of them did. Wicked was November 27th. Gladiator was November 15th. So they both converged.
What the heck? What? Gladiator moved 4 days? What was it? what day was it supposed to open on? And then
November. It was supposed to open on November 15th.
Yeah, no.
Oh, sorry.
Gladiator.
Yeah, Gladiator was
Or Wicked. One of them moved only 3 days.
Yeah, Wicked moved back 3 days, 4 days, whatever.
From a Tuesday to a Friday.
Well, yeah, because it was gonna be that November 27th, which is the day before Thanksgiving. I think.
Okay, sure, that's right. Yeah, there are some holidays that make release dates weird.
No, November 27th is also Moana 2.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
Wow. This is going to be a pretty packed little area here.
So
it usually is.
It usually is.
Yeah.
But Tucker, I think we may have found our next Barbenheimer.
Yeah. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't think it's as big, but I think that's definitely what the thought process is from Paramount and Warner Brothers.
Yeah. Who are currently working together on Twisters, right? That's Paramount.
Yeah. Warner Brothers is taking it domestically. Paramount is distributing international.
Yeah. We'll see. I think this is a pretty good counter programming, all things considered.
Too. Yeah.
And this is a pretty good lineup for a Thanksgiving slot.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I don't feel any particular way about this. Did something fill the November 15th slot?
November 15th is Red 1.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a pretty big holiday season.
It is.
Here.
Well, I don't know about Red 1. We'll talk about that. That's a few months away still.
Yeah,
We have the trailer for that, though, and boy. Doggy. Not looking good.
Well, we already went over the July releases.
We did.
Let's talk about what we think will be the top 5 highest opening films.
Okay, Tucker, I got my numbers here. Let me pull them up briefly, but we have the same 5.
We do have the same. Yeah, the exact same 5.
Yes. So, Tucker, I am saying Deadpool and Wolverine. Biggest opening of the year, $200 million.
That would be impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
$200 million. Despicable Me 4. I'm saying 120 for the 5-day. For the 5-day.
Oh, 5-day, I think it could go bigger than that.
You think so?
You don't think that Despicable Me 4 will gross more in its 5-day than Inside Out in its 3-day?
I don't think so. Because Despicable Me, as we've talked about already, has a much broader age appeal than
Inside Out has more. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Despicable Me 4 is only parents and there's not enough kids.
Yeah, but it's also the holiday movie.
Good point. Yeah. Which is why I'm factoring in the 5-day. I'm
saying here's where we're doing our difference that's going to lead to one of us winning next month.
Okay.
I think Despicable Me 4 in its 5-day will outgross
Inside Out
2's opening weekend.
Okay.
And you don't. But we have the same 5, so the stakes are very low.
Okay. Twisters, I'm taking the upwards on this. There's a lot of contention about what this is going to do. Is it going to be 50? Is it going to be 60? I'm going to say $75 million for Twisters
and
opening
he is
weekend.
Never overestimated a gross. It never happens.
Never once. Don't worry about it. $75 million for Twisters. Fly Me to the Moon, I'm going to say 12.
Sure.
And Maxine, I'm going to say 8.
Sure. I mean, we're very close to 3 of these movies
getting
information. No. Fly Me to the Moon opens next week.
Exactly.
In my mind, it opened this week because you saw it.
Exactly.
But, this is going to be obviously very heavily skewed to the top month, but also so
just like
this
June
one.
Was, yeah.
And we were very happy with the overall performance at the box office this month. So, 3 big movies. Well, let's be real. 2 big movies and Twister, which is a solidly sized movie.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good month for the theatrical exhibition.
I would say so as well.
I think that there's a good chance that many people that we know see more movies this month than they have in any given month for the last 8 months.
All right, Tucker. There we have it. I just want to briefly say August I think is going to be a much harder month to parse out a top 5.
Well, it's going to be a lot more fun.
It's going to be a lot more fun. Exactly.
Yeah.
More difficult, more fun. Thank you so much for watching this month's Backlot Banter. Remember to comment down below your thoughts on how it panned out this month. If you think any of our predictions are way out of whack here, we'll be coming back next month to see how it all turned out and how the box office is faring. Let us know your thoughts on how that's going as well. Remember to join our Discord server, link in the description, like this video, and we'll see you next month.